Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Flaming Puck podcast with me, your co host, Ian the Dynamo Kelly. Of course, joined by my right hand man, Dylan Simpson. This is your brand new Calgary Flames podcast from the fans for the fans. Welcome, Dylan.
Yes, sir. Happy to be here.
Here we are, my friend. We've finally got it done. We're going to do our little introductions here now and explain why there is another Calgary Flames podcast and why it's going to be people's favorite Calgary Flames podcast.
Well, let's just start with the fact that there's an Irishman living in Ireland, and why him?
Who would have thought an Irishman living in Ireland, eh?
Yeah,
I thought I'd throw that in. There was an Irishman living in
yeah,
Ireland, eh? uh, well, it's funny that you asked that because we've been in contact for quite a while, and
that we are.
we're part of one of if in fact we're part of the greatest Calgary Flames group on Facebook, which any real Flames fan should be a part of, which is the Flames Hub on Facebook. If you want to join, please send us a request, and the guys will definitely filter you out and see if you're a real Flames fan or not. and if you're not, you'll be
All right,
running out of town pretty quick, right? um,
absolutely.
no, it's funny because we've been talking quite a while, and um, we were on our good friend Brad Baroud's podcast, of course. Great Flames show as well. No harm in giving Brad a plug, and Brad has agreed to come on to our show as well at some point down the line.
Speaking
Um,
of plugs,
yep,
check out his Flames Unfiltered.
great show. Brad is just a wealth of knowledge. Like, he's a stats guy, he's a numbers guy. He knows exactly what he's talking about when it comes to that. So that's an absolutely A1 podcast, and you can never have enough
Yeah,
good Flames podcasts, in my opinion.
absolutely.
But why we are here today, just guys, to set the agenda, is I'm an Irishman, as Dylan so correctly pointed out, living in Ireland, and massive, crazy Flames fan. So much so that I have bags under my eyes that I don't get to fucking sleep enough. And we are, we're not your PG podcast, too. There's going to be a lot of cuss words on this one. Um, so basically, you know, a lot of people listen to this probably heard my story before, but why not tell it again as you asked me to do so, Dylan? I was a massive pro wrestling fan as a kid, so much so that I became a pro wrestler over here in Ireland and the UK when I was a young man. And that was all in thanks to Calgary's own Bret the Hitman Hart. And I think this is the funny part for you, Dylan, right? Because my first introduction to hockey was through the Sega Mega Drive 1994 NHL EA Sports game. And I remember asking my uncle's best friend at the time, I was like, do Calgary have a team? And he was like, believe it or not, they do. And I was like, whoa, this is cool. And he was a Bruins fan, which is normal being in Ireland. Okay, Boston Celtics, Boston Bruins. They're two kind of established teams even over here in Ireland. But for me, I was like, no, Bret Hart's from Calgary. I'm going with that. Like, you know what I mean? That's my team. And I remember playing the game, and like the best goal scorer on the team for me was obviously Theo Fleury and Joe Wendyke. And I was like, yeah, I'm starting to know the names of all these players. Al McInnes was playing still as well. Um, I was like, Jesus, and I'm literally getting infatuated with what we now know as absolute legends, and
Yeah,
somebody that we could do it on the team right now, actually. Um,
I was about to say.
yeah, absolutely. It's become full circle now. But yeah, over here we were lucky enough to have the NBC Super Channel, which obviously over in the States, you guys and Canada had different kind of sports channels that would only show that. We would only get a little bit of segmentation, um, where we'd get to see maybe 2 hours. You get like a 2 hour hockey show, and then might show like the first period of a game, and then they would show highlights of other games and stuff. And obviously the big deal was obviously the fact that Gretzky in 1994 was still playing for the Kings and whatnot, and so you get to see a lot of the American teams. The Ducks were pretty much new in town as well, so Disney were pretty much funding that deal. Um, but I was like,
Trying to go worldwide with it.
absolutely. But I would get to see 10 seconds of the Flames scoring goal, like a Jonah Wendyke goal, where he would just put the keeper on his ass. And I was like, oh man, this is just the best. And then on Eurosport, you would get to see all the international games. So I would get to see the Team Canada games then. And I was like, I
Right.
want a Team Canada jersey. And my dad was like, you're Irish. Do you think you're Canadian? I was like, I think I was born in the wrong country, to be honest with you. To be
How
honest
do you
with
take that?
so yeah, so that's my story. Flames fan since I was 10 years old. Realistically, I was born in 84. I was a fan in 94. So I think even though I'm from Ireland, I hope I know all the right people have accepted me as one of their own in Calgary, and I hope the
Sure.
listeners accept that explanation as well. So
I'm sure they will. I love that story.
thank you, brother. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, bit of background for yourself, Dylan, as well. Before we get into it, as well, you're obviously you're a lifelong Flames fan. You were a Calgary Flames fan to the death, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I grew up about 5 hours north of Calgary, 4.5, 5 hour drive north of Calgary in a little town called Jasper. And a lot of people were Toronto fans and Oilers fans. And when I got into hockey when I was really young, I I probably partially just wanted to be a little bit different than all of them.
I
And
get that.
I
I
really,
get that. Yeah.
yeah, and I it's hard to say exactly why, because I'm, 31 years old and can't really remember when I was 4. But knowing myself, I'd say probably because I wanted to be different, and because I wanted to be able to chirp people, as you know very well. I enjoy doing so. um,
Our fans will become accustomed to that over the course of time.
I'd hope so. Um, yeah, so that's how that started, and then a few years into my hockey career, as it were, when I played when I was a kid, um, I kind of my mom, bless her heart, um, she kind of gave us, my sister and I both, choices of extracurricular activities that cost her a lot of money, because we weren't on the super wealthy side or anything like that. And I actually gave up on hockey so I could snowboard, because that was something I could do by myself. And my
Sure.
sister gave up on her stuff so she could snowboard, because that was something that she could do by herself and we could do as a family as well. Um, and then after a few more years, I guess probably like 8 more years or whatever after that, I actually went to see my dad in 2004. Um, During that playoff run, he lived in a powerless cabin down by Longview, Alberta at the time, and we listened to all of the games every night on battery powered radio. And so one of the first times we really bonded, and yeah, so that got me back into something that I used to be into.
I get you.
And
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know
yeah.
years later, here we are, clearly being some, maybe a little bit of a fan, who knows.
Yeah, yeah, somewhat obsessed, maybe.
A little bit.
No, that's really cool, man. I can relate to that. I'm sure many of the listeners can relate to something like that as well, because
Yeah.
I was always a big fan of radio, hence why I got into podcasting, and hence why we have, as they would say in Texas, this here particular podcast. Um,
Yeah.
I like I like I like hearing people speak through the airwaves, you know what I mean? And I love hearing games through the airwaves as well, because a lot of it is left up to the imagination. Like sometimes,
Being forced to think, being forced to
exactly, dude.
visualize
And
it yourself instead of just watching and seeing what you see, you know,
yeah,
being forced to actually try and see what's happening without seeing what's happening.
that's it, dude.
I
Yeah.
I think that's a really good way to actually learn more about the game and yeah,
I would agree. No, I 100% agree with that. And I think because it like some of the commentators, I mean, the American, the US, and the Canadian commentators are so good at their job as well that they can keep your interest kind of at peak for the whole period. Like, and that's and like you're like, okay, that guy deserves that break now. That guy deserves that icing call. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So that he can actually take a chill
yeah,
for like
yeah.
5 minutes.
No, I still say I'm walking home from work or whatever, and there's an afternoon game. I still plug the radio into my headphones and
Yeah.
walk home listening and love it pretty much just as much as I love watching the games.
Yeah, me too, and that's why I say that's why we gave a shout out to obviously Flames Unfiltered as well, because I've obviously got inspired by a lot of these guys to kind of make a show of our own, and I think we've got the right pieces here, especially with you and me, and we've got a nice dynamic here, and I think
Good
we're
start.
yeah, absolutely. I think we're gonna nail this, and I think real Flames fans are gonna enjoy this too, and we are gonna, of course, have a lot of different guests on over the course of time. But let's get into it today, because realistically, what Flames fans want to hear right now is what is happening right now. So let's kind of set the narrative a little bit. Let take it down just a little notch. Let's lower the voices, get them nice and radio like, and we'll set the tone, because realistically, last year in the playoffs, Jeff Ward is in there. You know that I'm talking to you at this point in time as well, and I'm saying I know Jeff Ward is a nice guy. It's all I keep hearing. It's all I keep hearing. Right. And I'm of the opinion that nice guys finish last. Always have been, always will be. Doesn't mean that they don't deserve any good things to happen to them. But at the same time, when it's in team sports or competitive sports, nice guys generally finish last.
You've got to be competitive, right? And
Yeah.
a lot of the time you can't be nice and competitive at the same time. Obviously you can, but
Yeah, but there's a way
it's
of
kind
doing
of
it,
hard
right?
to talk.
There's a way of doing it. Like, I mean, listen, Michael Backlund can do it, but like it's a different way. You know what I mean? Like Michael Backlund is the type of guy that, I mean, we talked about it the other week. Michael Backlund gets a penalty. You're like, holy shit, something's gone wrong here for Michael Backlund to get a penalty. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah,
what's going on in the systems play? But Jeff Ward, we're all talking, and we're thinking there's no way Jeff Ward is going this side of the season. It's going to be the end of the season, and Brad is going to try and make one last play for his job and hope that everything just works out. But realistically, and this is my thoughts and my thoughts only, and you're welcome to chime in and tell me if you think I'm wrong, but I don't think you will. I think it's quite clear that Brad knows that his job is under major pressure. Uh,
absolutely.
and even after what was it, a 7-2 win over the Senators, he's gone.
So yeah, at this point we've had so many bad losses and untimely losses
Yeah,
that it's hard to remember what the score of the odd
e-
less than crap
exactly.
game is.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So why don't we start there, because um Mr. Nice Guy Jeff Ward goes, and again, I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but he does go, and
Yes,
we're thinking, what in the name of the good Lord is after happening here? And we wake up to the news that an old Flames legend is back at the helm, in a head coach capacity, and of course, it's Daryl Suter. So what's your thought process right there? Are you thinking, right, has he been out of the game too long? Is it an old head that's going to come onto the bench here that is going to like absolutely kick the shit out of some of these players verbally? Is it what we need? Like, what are you thinking?
I like how you had to put in the little thing about it being verbal and not physical, considering some
Yes.
of the allegations of some of our previous coaches.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Um, but yeah, my original thought is, with any coaching change, usually it takes a while.
Sure.
Um, get new systems going, get players ready and knowing exactly what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it, and what the coach expects of them. Um, and oh, I think they kind of gave us a lot of false hope. And let's be honest, we went on a 3-game winning streak right after, like right when he first came, and it was.
Montreal and Toronto, yeah, Montreal to us.
And don't get me wrong, holding Toronto, what was it, to 2 goals in 2 games, and well, 2 games and overtime.
Yeah,
That's pretty good, and with David Riddick in net too, like that's fantastic. But you can't expect so much. You can't expect that to go on for forever. Clearly, they had a fire lit under their ass, but they're also, you know, there's a lot of players that can't play Daryl Sutter hockey
yeah,
on our roster.
yeah.
Um, and a lot of people think, let's say Sam Bennett is one of them that can. And I agree, he plays that style of hockey. But here's my thing: when everyone's saying Sam Bennett's your best player in the playoffs, that means that there's a big problem with the rest of your roster.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Right?
I'm glad you brought that
Daryl
up.
Sutter hockey is playoff hockey. So
I'm glad you brought that up because right, so far, and I do agree. I do agree that it takes time. We're now what? How many games are we into the Daryl Sutter era? I think we're
I think it's three or 4 weeks at this point.
yeah. So I think we're about 9 or 10 games in. So we've obviously got the 3 win. Yeah, I think we're about 9. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
The last few I kind
sounds
of
about right.
want to. Oh yeah, I want to forget the last few. I just want to remember the first 3.
I'm honestly not counting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not doing that. So, you statistic guys and girls out there listening, yeah, you're more than welcome to correct us. But to be honest with you, that's not what we're about here at the moment. I think what realistically, it's going to take some time, but also realistically, I look at Sam Bennett and I think, okay, he's the guy that people are expecting to shine under Daryl Sutter hockey.
Yeah,
Not going to happen, in my opinion. Um, I think he
I think
looks.
he has the opportunity to get better
Oh yeah,
under Daryl Sutter. I
absolutely,
don't think
absolutely.
I don't think he ever really, and like there's nothing wrong with this, but I don't think he ever has the the ability to step up and be a number one winger or a number one center. He's just not that player, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, but I
There's
mean, he
plenty
should
of.
be ambitious enough to at least want to be a number 2 or a number 3. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially like if I'm Sam Bennett, I'm thinking right. I'm looking, and especially if I'm an ambitious hockey player, I'm looking going right. Money's not looking too great at the moment. In fact,
Mhm.
Lindy's not looking too great either. I mean, their numbers aren't Sidney Crosby's numbers. You know what I mean? They're not. They're not even nearly a fucking poor man Sidney Crosby numbers. They're very
True.
low. They're actually
Yep.
below games played. Like, so I'm thinking, there's my spot. I can go for this at this point. I can put myself in that spot there now. Again, silly penalties. Some of these players just keep, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And that's
Yeah,
what I
yet
feel
here
like
we
it.
are like an hour away from watching another game.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're gonna win tonight. I said today. We're obviously recording this just for people for full disclosure. We're recording this on the 27th of the third, and we're going to be playing the first series of three against the Jets. Um, so yeah, we're going to win tonight anyway. We know that it's going to be a Monty hat trick and a Johnny hat trick of assists.
Yeah.
We're going to have an egg on our face. But look, not to single Sam Bennett out. We're just pointing out that we're looking at the likes of Sam Bennett and saying, okay, what can he do? But then on the different end of the spectrum, we can look at someone like an Elias Lindholm, who is pretty much, he's got more goals than Money as well. He's higher up on the points charts. You're thinking, right, what does Elias Lindholm have to do to be the first line center? And we're going to get onto that later on about how we think we can do better. But in terms of what Suter's trying to implement at the moment, and let's talk about the gloom before we talk about the how we
Positivity.
yeah, exactly, because we did make a conscious decision that, like, we are Flames fans, we have a lot of negativity to talk about, but at the same time we got to look with one eye forward as well, you know what I mean? So
There's lots, you know what, for the first time in a while on below below the NHL level, there's a lot, maybe not a lot, but there's quite a bit to look forward to. But we'll
definitely,
get to that later.
definitely, yeah, definitely. I suppose we should start at looking at the main two culprits, and I know it's going to pain us to say it, but at the same time, it has to be said. When you were looking at your two marquee players, i.e., Johnny and Monty, you expect goals from Monahan. That's for sure. That's You're not going to expect, like I said, you're not going to expect Sid the Kid numbers.
No,
You're not going to expect Ovechkin numbers from the winger.
and that's unrealistic, right?
Exactly.
And I think there's a lot of unrealistic expectations on both of them.
Yes.
To be
Yes.
honest,
Yeah.
Monahan has never been more than a goal scorer.
If you
He's
get
not that
70, if
this
you
year.
get 70, if you get close to 80 points out of Money in the regular season, that's a good season for Money, right?
That's great.
Yeah.
And people say he's not a perennial 30 goal scorer, but he's been 30 plus or 27 all of his
Career.
all of his years, except for his first year where he was playing with Joe Colburn and got 22. So he has it in him, and he has it in him without Gaudreau as well. But you know, there's so much expected of them, and there should be, because they're technically our two go-to guys and have been for a very long time. But maybe it's time for that to change.
Yeah, I think so. I think so, and that's where we're going to kind of rub our heads together as well. And I think,
Mhm.
I mean, I think it's also right that we say we talk about Flames fans sometimes being unrealistic as well, but we also need to talk about, we all have different sports teams as well. Over here in Ireland, we have football teams, and sometimes we have players that we like and we have an allegiance to. And you kind of hate to break that loyalty by saying something negative, even though it's quite obvious that it needs to be said. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Sometimes the elephant is very, very hard to address, that's standing in the
one
room.
of the hardest things that as a Flames fan, I've ever had to say was, "Man, we should have traded Iginla 2 years ago."
Well, there you go. You see that sometimes is when you look at a player in decline, it's very difficult to admit that, A, to yourself, but also B, to anybody else, because you're afraid of being just crucified. But
Chastised. Yeah,
but we have this with Gio at the moment, and I'm gonna say it personally. I think Gio. I know he scored the goal the other night, and look, that's still. I mean, that goal went back and forward like 5 million times. Um,
with him and Dubé. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I was always giving it to Dubé because I'm always gonna, go with the forward in that instance. I think he did get a little bit of a deflection, but
I
either way,
do too. But they gave him the assist. I think he'll probably take that.
yeah, and either way, to be honest with you, I don't really care because look, the goal went in for the Flames, and that's the main thing. But I think what's happening with a lot of Flames fans is that when certain players do a certain thing on their last game, and we have terminology over here, and we use it in football over here in Europe. You're only
Yeah,
as good as your last game, and sometimes fans only
yeah,
remember the last game as well, and not the previous ones. Um, Geo has been a liability for a long time now, and I think
yeah,
I'd like to take people back to the Dallas series last year. Geo, when you're looking for a leader and you're looking at Mangiapane and fucking Lucic and players like that giving away needless penalties at absolutely ridiculous times, and you know what I'm talking about here.
yeah.
I remember Geo doing stupid things like just getting a penalty for fucking flipping the puck over the board. You know what I mean?
And it's one thing if you do that every once in a while, but I seem to remember being upset about that, especially the last one, because there
Yeah.
was in those two series that we had last playoffs, it was 4 or 5 times he just was not even under pressure and
Yeah.
just flipped the puck over.
Just flip the puck. And I was like, what? Like, this guy, I mean, I'll be honest with you. There's no way Gio should have went into this season as captain. No way. Because what
It's
message does
really
that
hard.
send? But what
Yeah,
message
it's
does
really
it send?
hard to well, it's I mean, it sends the message that I think you can go either way with this one. It could send the message, honestly, that you're not, as a franchise, you're not loyal to somebody who's been your go-to guy for this many years just because he lost a step.
But I
It
also
could
believe,
also
but I think it could also go the way that this guy is also
performance
not
doesn't mean
loyal to
shit.
his franchise, that he's willing to
Yeah,
just do something stupid and he's meant to be our
yeah.
all supreme leader. You know what I mean? It goes both ways. I think Brad Treleving is the problem, and I think that's what we're going to get to probably a little bit later on. That's my own personal opinion. Um,
I think he's part of it for sure.
I think, well, I'm not saying he's the only problem. Absolutely, I'm not
Yeah.
saying in any way, shape, or form that he's the only problem. But I think he is one of the major parts of the problem because
The
he,
roster he put together is the problem, and that's a problem.
and it all falls on his head. You know what I mean? And all we hear is accountability and all these stupid terminologies that we heard from. Oh my God! One thing I do not miss from Jeff Ward is the absolute nonsense after games. You gotta learn how to. You gotta hate to learn how. You gotta hate to lose. You gotta hate to lose. Okay, yeah, all right, fair enough.
Getting paid millions of dollars to not give a fuck if you're losing or not. Okay.
And this is where I think the accountability has to lie at these three players because I think the fact that we're bringing up Gio and putting him in the same category as Johnny and Monty I think is only fair because Johnny and Monty get a lot of shit and I think Gio just gets it
Deserve
because
he
he's
deserves just as much as they get.
I think so because he is the captain. He is on a huge fucking salary. He is 37 going on 38.
All
He's
three of
still
them
got
are on a very similar salary, ending at very similar times.
exactly. He's got 2 years left on his contract, for God's sakes. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? He can.
and I believe
Oh,
it's no move or no trade clause as well.
well, he can be taken by the Kraken, though, can't he? But the Kraken won't. I don't think the Kraken are going to be going for someone like Gio on a 1 year contract on that
No,
money. I think they'd be more likely looking at a Bennett or a Mangiapane, and I think I'd be more fearful of losing a Mangiapane to the Kraken than
I
than
yeah, he might be small, but he plays like he's 6'6".
You know what I mean? Oh, big, big, big player, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to call out some players, some of the players that we have that are the unsung heroes. I don't. I mean, I agree with you. We know that Johnny had a good start to the season. His numbers are there. Blah blah blah. But the difference is I want to see the players play when we're under pressure, not when we're winning, you know?
Well, here's the thing for me is when it gets late in seasons, when games start to matter more, not like they don't matter to begin with, but that's a
Sure.
way people say, basically late in the season when you're pushing for playoffs or
Yeah.
pushing for playoff
Yeah.
positioning or whatever, when games start to matter, that's when games get heavy. And the
Yeah.
kid is a fantastic playmaker. He has crazy good hockey IQ, but when the games are heavy, he can't use it.
Yeah.
And he tries to force things that aren't there. And it's really frustrating to watch.
Yeah.
Like, thank God they're not using that bump back pass on the power play they've been doing for 20 years, it seems like. But nothing else he does is working either. I think, honestly, one criticism I have of Daryl Sutter is that he's taking guys like that and trying to make them work on the boards and trying to make them work down low behind the net.
Yeah.
And they cannot do that.
Yes.
Monahan should be
I'm
able
with you.
to with his size, but getting Gaudreau to go into a board battle against Nikita Zadorov is stupid.
Yeah. I mean, you
I
know what?
obviously not
I'm with
Zadorov
you.
because he's not in our conference or in our division, but
No, but it's true. What you're saying in
but
theory is
big
right, though.
guys.
Yeah, but he
Even
shouldn't.
Matthews.
He
Matthews is
should.
a big guy, but he can actually wrestle on the
Yeah,
board.
he shouldn't be in there with someone like Cassian or something on the boards. Is basically what you're saying. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Shouldn't be. They
yeah.
shouldn't be. No, I 100% agree with that. And I think you're actually onto something there because, like, I think that is Sutter's biggest problem, and but I think he's also learning that because by looking at or listening to Sutter's last interview, he said like he takes responsibility for some of the down form of Matthew Kachuk, for example, over the last couple of games by not giving him enough minutes and maybe not playing
Yeah.
them to their strengths. And you know,
Yeah.
I like a
But
coach.
Matthew Tkachuk should be able to play that game. That should be something he's good at.
Matthew
That's
Kachuk
something he
should
was
be front
previously.
line though. Matthew Kachuk should be
Yeah,
front line.
absolutely.
I would like to see this. Okay, if you're adamant about using Monahan as your first line forward, okay, play him with Matthew Kachuk. Play him with Kachuk, and I don't know who you put on the right. I really don't. I'm just saying. I'm trying. Look, dude. I think we're both at our ends with here, so we're trying to think of ways to fix it. I'm not saying like
Yeah,
personally, I believe it should be. I would like to see the front line of Kachuk, Goodrow, and Lindholm. I think that would be interesting to see because
I
we
think that
know,
would be great.
yeah, we know Kachuk can play on the left or the right. You know what I mean? He's got that floatability for sure.
Not naturally, but
No.
he can. And they play together on the power play.
Hmm.
Half the time one of them's playing as a forward, the other time they're
Yeah.
playing in the defense, bumper spot. But we know they can play, and we know that they have had chemistry before. And it honestly blows my mind that in the last however long we've had Kachuk here, that they haven't tried that. Like, I get they're both natural left wingers, and you can't have all of your great players on one line, but that's also you know two great playmakers with a power forward, and Lindholm can snipe, and
Oh,
we
he can
have
snipe
some
with the
some
best.
defensemen who can bomb the puck. And like, why is it only on the power play we're playing our three best forwards together? Like,
Yeah.
no disrespect to Monahan, like, obviously, I'm not the hugest fan of what he's been doing this year, but no disrespect to him. The other guys, the other three are better. Lindholm is way more complete of a player. And I mean, when you get even even when people say, you know, when you're a poor man's whatever, like poor man's Patrice Bergeron,
Mm.
that's a pretty good poor man's thing to be.
So let me ask you a question then, right? From just to get your idea of you guys over in Canada, because like I have a good I have a good inkling of it because I talk to you guys on pretty much on a hourly basis, so I understand what's going on over there. But for anybody that might be listening that might be into the Flames or just know of Sean Monahan or play NHL and think, oh, Sean Monahan's an elite level player, I'm going to sign him on the team. What what is it about Monahan that people are afraid to kind of discuss within the club? You know what I mean? Within the actual organization, because
You mean like the GM and the coaches and
yes,
and
sir, exactly, yeah. I mean,
they
the guy's got all the tools, right? Let's take away all the bells and the whistles and stuff. We look at Sean Monahan. He's a 6 foot, 6'3" forward. He's definitely got
six
size.
foot three.
Six
Yeah.
foot three. He's a big motherfucker. All right. He's got size. He always looks to me like he's stoned. To be honest with you,
He talks like
uh,
it too,
he
but
talks like it
sometimes
too. I'm a big fan of Monahan. I'm probably one of these guys that I'm a Monahan fan to a fault. You know that. I am. I don't know why. I
I
just
have been in the past too, man.
Yeah, I get a
Not gonna
loyalty
lie.
to him. But what did I say the other day to you, Dylan? I literally text you and said, "What about Lindholm?" Exactly what I said. I said, "I think it's time that we put Lindholm in the first line."
On the first line.
And
That
dude,
we should.
you know,
We should.
yeah,
And remember the first 3 games of the season when Lindholm and Kachuk were our first line forwards,
yeah,
and that was the first 3 games of the season where we played great hockey and won all 3, and then had 5 days off and continued to suck for the rest of the year.
Jesus Christ, yeah, you reminded me of that, but we have to because we got to talk about it. It's it's kind of crazy when you think about it as well, because if we're looking, I mean, when you think about it, then if we're going to put money in the second line, who is he playing with?
I think he needs guys who will drag him into the battle, and not just
Lucic.
one, not Richie.
No,
Richie's
Lucic.
been. I'm thinking Mangiapane
Okay, and Dubé.
and Dubé.
Oh shit, man! You know what? That's a really interesting call. That's a
And then
really interesting call.
that's also a guy who plays left wing, a guy who plays center, and a guy who plays right wing who won a Team Canada gold as a
Sure,
center.
sure, yeah,
So, because one of Monahan's biggest issues is offhand faceoffs, which is why he worked so well with Lindholm for that year, is because they would switch sides. Sorry, they'd switch positions for faceoffs when
yeah.
Monahan was on his offside. So why not do that with Dubé? Now we don't have too much um, evidence to go off of how Dubé will do on faceoffs against the big boys, but
He's got the heart
what do
though.
we have to lose right now?
He's got the heart though. He's got the heart. We have nothing to lose. In fact, if we keep losing, that's great because we get a top fucking high pick. You know what I mean? So we have nothing to lose without wanting to throw.
I mean, a shallow draft, but also scouts don't have much to go on because they can't go watch games. So
But you never know. We could get lucky. Look, I'm just saying.
we could.
We could. We could. Listen, Jonah
It's
Wendell
about
happened
time.
one day, okay? Just remember that. Remember that. It can happen.
Yeah.
It can happen again.
So did Marty St. Louis, and then we traded him, and then we got Bennett all those years later at number 4.
Yeah, it was awesome, wasn't
I
it?
got to do something. I got to do something about that.
Yeah, drink. um No, I think no. That's a really great shout. To be honest with you, you're speaking my language there. I like the idea of a Mangiapane, Monahan, and Dubé line. I mean, I really think that if they could drag him into the battle with them, especially with say like especially going forward, if you got like a Valimaki fucking Anderson line when they get peak, you know what I mean? When they get better, I think that could be a fucking really, really heavily ozone fucking heavy line personally.
I do too. And then you can keep Hanifin and Tanev together because,
Exactly.
well, Tanev's signed for quite a while, and Hanifin, who knows?
Can we take a pause to actually maybe talk about Tanev? I think that would be. I think we would be remiss in doing him a disservice without talking about how good Chris Tanev has been for us so far. I personally see a guy. I mean, we're two rockers anyway. Like, we remember great days when we had our long hair flowing in the wind. So when you see
yes,
Chris
sir.
Tanev with no teeth in his head and he's just good looking Native American looking guy, like,
He
no,
he
he's a great.
he's a hell of a hockey player. He's got the hockey hair, he's got the hockey teeth, and he's always chewing on something.
He's
But
great. He's great. I mean, he's been
but
such a good shining light in terms of
so
designing
remember
guys.
how I said Lindholm is poor man's Bergeron, Kachuk, poor man's Marchand, whatever. So I don't know how many people watching this are going to remember to have too many fond memories about Chris Russell.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I loved Chris Russell. I loved the fact that he was started in the D zone and he blocked more shots than the goddamn goalies did at that time.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm going to do a flip on the poor man's situation and say Chris Tanev is the rich man's Chris Russell.
You know what? I'm with you. I am with you, my friend. I think Chris Tanev is everything that we need in this organization. I think within 2 years, I think he's definitely captain material if nobody steps up. He definitely deserves
He,
an A next year. That's for sure.
I think he's gonna have to have an A, especially if
Definitely.
Monahan and possibly Giordano or whoever else
Of course.
are out.
Of course.
Backlund, I mean, Backlund's apparently a great leader from what I hear, and one of my favorite
Yep.
guys on the team.
I love
But
Backlund. Yeah. Love Backlund.
but you know the way Tanev, it takes a leader to take guys like Quinn Hughes and make them help so much in mentoring and make them into this superstar. And he's doing the same with Hanifin. And I'd love to see what he could do with Valimaki.
Oh,
But
dude. Yeah. Yeah.
but at the same time, he's doing so much for Hanifin's confidence that it's hard to split those two up.
Hannafin is going to be an elite player within a year or two, without a shadow of a doubt. His numbers are going to go up.
He's he's gotten a lot better. I blame a lot of it on the Tanev effect, and I only hope that if he ever gets split up or whenever it happens, because guys aren't going to play together forever, but I only hope that Hanifin doesn't stop how he's playing, how
I
he's
don't, I
been
don't, I
playing.
don't, I don't believe so. I think Hannafin has a good natural ability personally, and I think he seems to have just grown a little bit. We're talking about negatives, but we're looking at positives as well. I think Hannafin is one of the guys that has grown and obviously influenced or benefited, should I say, from the influence of Chris Tanev. And long may it continue. And if they could only bring his brother in on left wing, just somehow, just to even be on a fourth line, just to fucking, you know,
Did you know what the Canucks last year? Do you know what their nickname for Tanev was?
daddy,
Dad. Yeah,
dad, yeah,
that says a lot
yeah, dad, yeah. It was.
about leadership.
I watched the interview, yeah, when he first came, and it was like, wow. I mean, like this is what we need to realize, right? When we're looking at this, like on paper, these signings, right? And I'm actually, anybody that knows me, and you guys do, I'm not the biggest Brad Trey Living fan, but at the same time, on paper, he brought like guys in that really should have made this team a playoff team. Jacob
James
Markstrom,
Neal
James Markstrom. No, but I'm saying this year, even Markstrom.
this year, but
We
even
found,
last year.
yeah, last year as well. Like we got the goalie that we wanted. We got Markstrom. We got Tanev in the back. Um,
Yeah,
Levo, who I think is a very underrated player. I think Levo is actually pretty good. I think he's not too bad. I think Richie. I know you're not the biggest. Yeah, you're not too bad on Richie.
I'm not bad on Richie at all.
Yeah,
I
you're
just
not
think
bad on
that
Richie.
Levo and Richie. So this, I'm gonna get this
Nordstrom
out there.
though, Nordstrom. I don't know why. Like I know, and I'm gonna call out a couple of Flames podcasts here as well because some of them think Nordstrom has got it and fits the team. I think Nordstrom is fucking. I don't think. Yeah, he's got the fight in him and all that, but at the end of
He's
the day,
super niche. He's a super
yes,
niche player.
yes,
But
yes.
the thing is niche players at league minimum, you can't really argue with that. And you don't
That's
really want
true.
your
That's fair. That's fair. That's also
you
fair.
don't really want your prospects playing those um Derek Ryan and Nordstrom minutes. You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah,
want guys who are really good at penalty killing to
yeah,
play those minutes. And then you want, prospects. I'm not a huge fan of putting prospects on fourth line and giving them no minutes a game.
no,
I
me
think you
neither.
got to start in at least third line minutes and actually see what they got. Otherwise, you're not giving them a fair chance,
Well, that was a
right?
Jeff Ward special with fucking Glenn Godin, wasn't it? He did
Glenn
that
Godin, yeah,
this year. You know what I mean? I say Godin, but Godin, yeah.
yeah.
That's where pronunciation will come into play. But sometimes on these
There's been a
podcasts,
couple.
that's okay though,
It is what it is.
because Monaghan is an Irish name. So I'm just saying.
Yeah. I don't think Newendike is though,
New Endike,
or Sutter.
Daryl Sutter. So I'll say it right. Yeah, Daryl Sutter.
You were saying Suter,
Sutery.
Sutery. It's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good. But
Depends on
yeah,
what
no,
part of Canada you're coming from too, though. I'd imagine it's like over here we got some like crazy accents here in Ireland where you're like
I,
talking to someone from like
I could see someone in Newfoundland having some different ways to pronounce
they
some
would be
things.
they would be even worse. They've got the passport.
Or is it better? Who knows?
One or the other. One or the other.
Um, but yeah. So how about this positivity chat? We've had a lot of negativity chat. Um,
You kick off with the positive then.
well, I was gonna ask you some questions.
Cool. Go for it.
Our just off the top, give me some prospects and where you think they're gonna land in the next couple of years.
Gonna give you two right now. Wolf in goal. Wolf in goal. I think that kid is just looking special at the moment.
He has been since the year before we drafted him
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
seventh round.
yeah. I know it's absolutely crazy. Like how did that one go? You know what I mean? How did that one
Because
go?
he's
Miss?
short.
Yeah, I know, and it's so ridiculous. Like you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Oh, he's
Same
short, but
reason Gaudreau went so low.
yeah, he could save pucks, but he's short. Okay, now you sound like Vince McMahon, guys. Come on. Well, he's not very tall. Um, and I mean, I really have high hopes within a couple of years for Connor Zary. I really like that pick. I like Connor Zary, and I think the way that we were able to kind of keep going.
Get more picks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that was pretty well played. I know it was in
For
a
anyone that doesn't know, Brad Treliving went out and had Connor Zary in mind at the draft last year and traded down twice, getting a couple more picks for later in that draft, and still got the guy he was after. So um,
so again,
every once in a while, Brad makes some good moves.
Brad makes some good moves sometimes. Exactly. Yeah, yeah, and that's why I like to call out as much as I like to call out Brad for his I suppose lack of lack of decision making. Let's say, and it would be a right terminology rather than.
I think his lack of balls. I think
Yeah,
he's
well,
got a
you
lack
see,
of
I was trying
balls.
to be nice, but now you've said
Trigger.
exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, he leaves
Yeah,
he leaves his
he's not
grapefruit
a
to
trigger man.
shrivel sometimes. Yeah,
Yeah, he's not a mid-season trigger man. He's a draft trigger man for sure. But
yeah, he's an
listen,
off season queen,
yeah,
but not a mid season king. You know, during the battle, he's not willing to get his hands dirty and go
yeah,
out there and wield the sword, which is
So
kind of what I'm coming from. But Connor
tell
Zary,
me,
I was happy.
did you watch the World
Rositz,
Juniors? Speaking of
well,
Zari
Rositska is one of the players, and oh yeah, I watched Peltier. Um,
and Zari.
oh good lord, man, Zary is just somebody that I don't know. I just have a thing about that kid. I think he's got something special.
He reminds me a lot of Dubé. They
Yeah, but
both,
he's bigger as well. He's a little bit bigger, isn't he?
I'm
Taller, should I say?
I'm not positive. I think maybe a little bit.
I think he's like 6. I
I'd have,
think
I'd have
Dubé's
to
only
look
about
that up,
5'10",
but
isn't he?
unfortunately, my phone is being used by this.
I'm gonna find those stats for you now. I
Yeah.
think
But the reason he reminds me of Dubé is because I find they both need a little bit of work. Um, how do I say this? Their feet move faster than their brain.
so. I was right. Connor is 6. He's 6 foot on the button.
Yeah,
Dylan Dubé, I believe, is like 5'10".
5'10". Yeah,
5'10", yeah. So not much in the difference. It's not a big.
no, but still, especially since Zari's 18 and probably could grow.
Well,
Who
dude,
knows?
he might not grow taller, but he's going to grow physically, as in wider. And I think
Hopefully.
he's not afraid of. Yeah, no, but sorry, continue on with the point you're making because I was
I
agreeing
was
with.
gonna say he's gonna grow with his brain, and I find that both him and Dubé, Dubé's getting better at it, but I find they skate a little bit too fast for what they're thinking, and then they overskate their own play, the play they were thinking about making, and Dubé uses it a lot to crash the net, and I love that. But then
Yeah,
he bobbles or loses or gets too tight in because he forgot that he was going so fast.
yeah, like yeah, he goes in with some sort of venom. You know what I mean? Uh,
But with a little bit of like, oh man, the amount of posts Dubase hit this year, the
oh,
kid has potential to be like a go-to guy for us for offense.
well, we said that,
And
didn't we? Didn't we only say that like about 3 or 4 nights ago? That like
probably I'm
Dubé could easily be a 60, 70 pointer every year.
yeah,
Easy,
yeah.
easy. There's no
Given
question. Even
given
more.
the opportunity, and like I said, just a little bit of tweak to his mindset, maybe slowing it down just a touch
Yeah, yeah.
and letting or maybe just letting his brain grow into his skating.
What about? So we were going to talk about. We'll get on to the coach and the system and all, and how it works for next year in a little while as well. If we want to just go forward a year or two, well, not a year or two, but we go forward a year. Um, what about Mangiapane? I mean, I think Mangiapane has all the tools to be a 30 goal a season player as well, easily.
So here's a question, and it relates to both Mangiapane and Monahan. So we say
Okay.
Monahan's a 30 goal scorer.
Hmm.
Do you see Mangiapane as a first line player
In the future or right now?
in the future, in
Yeah.
the near future? Yeah,
No, no, no,
no,
no.
solid second liner, solid
Definitely.
top
So,
six.
I would say solid second liner, pushing that first line. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
and that's to me, that's where Monahan should be.
You know what, dude? I gotta be.
Mangiapane has more tools than Monahan has,
Yeah, dude. I find it very
not
hard to argue with
physically
that
but
point.
mentally.
I find it hard to argue with that point. Yeah, and
Yeah.
the thing, and you know what, the thing I want to see. Okay, here we are. Right, I'm gonna lay my cards on the table. It's the first episode of the Flame and Puck podcast with me and Dylan. I'm gonna lay my cards on the lay my cards on the podcast table. There we go. See that?
Yeah,
Um, I'm gonna lay them out, and I'm gonna say what you said, sir, is 100% correct. What I need to see from Monaghan from now, for me as a fan, what I got to see from him tonight, going forward is that mental attitude. I don't care if he scores many more goals at this point, but if I see 100% effort, at least
The
I'm thinking,
whole team,
yes,
Mangiapane and Tanev are the only two players, the only two skaters on the team who show up every single fucking day.
every
How many,
fucking
sorry, how
minute,
many guys are on the team? That's ridiculous.
every fucking minute that they get, those guys will die for the team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and I think you're right. That's a really, really great point that you're making. And I hope some of the listeners actually take a step back and listen to that point. Mangiapane, is he a first line forward? If someone says no, but is he a solid push
Yeah, yeah.
for a
I think I
guaranteed?
think he's I think he's got the potential to be a second liner on a contending team who can step in for the first line if there's a short injury.
We got to be really careful, dude, in the in how we play
And
this
and
Seattle
be careful
draft,
of
because
expectations.
a lot of people are expecting Seattle to go for someone like Sam Bennett. I mean, if we don't, Mangiapane could be.
I don't see a way that Mangiapane is not one of the guys that's protected.
I hope so. I hope so. Well, I mean, I think Daryl Sutter will definitely make
Yeah,
sure that happens. You know what I mean? There's no way
I
that.
think that and I know that Vegas did this when they came in too, but I think that in order for to get somebody to take Bennett or say um, get Lucic to waive his no move clause and for Seattle to take him, we would need to add a third, even a second for Lucic, probably a third for Bennett, probably. Just give them a pick so they pick somebody who's not Mangiapane, not Dubé, not. I don't think Dubé can be picked. I could be wrong, but I know Vegas did it with some teams. Some teams gave them picks for future considerations, and those future considerations were not to pick this guy.
Yeah, so
So
maybe we can do something like that, because I mean, I honestly don't think Brad is going to be there next season anyway. I think the board are definitely going to be looking at somebody. I mean, I can't see how it would be justified if Brad was there.
yeah,
Because we know I'm not going to be. Look, we're probably going to get crucified from some fans on this one, going, "Oh, they're writing us off already. We're not making it. They don't think we're going to make it to the playoffs." No, we don't think that we're going to make it to the playoffs, because we've lost to the worst team twice back to back.
it's not even that. It's. I mean, yeah, that's a big part of it, but so many of the games we have won this year, we have not deserved it.
No,
Like
no.
Markstrom,
Toronto
the
2-0.
first the
No.
first half, Markstrom robbed so many teams of wins. The Canucks and and other games we got lucky bounces. Other teams haven't. Um, don't get me wrong. There's been some fantastic games. There's been some really good games, but they usually last a period or two.
There you go. There you go, sir. Right there. Calgary's main fucking problem. It's not.
They either show up for the first 5 minutes or the last 5 minutes.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
and during that 5 minutes, they can get an onslaught. And maybe go 2, 3 goals up, and then that's it. And then you're relying on Markstrom. But I made a really, really, really valid point the other day in our group. If this continues on, it's gonna come to the point where players like Markstrom, who are like such a solid, good top end goalkeeper, is going to become a product of the environment that he's surrounded with. You know,
and
um,
that's why we gotta ship out some of the
Dead wood.
pieces that are at fault for so many years of mediocre, not even mediocre hockey, whatever. I can forgive mediocre hockey. I can forgive mediocre, you know, bad losses, whatever, but I can't really forgive a lack of heart and a lack of give a fuck.
There
And
you
we
go,
have too
sir.
many guys that just do it every once in a while, and
There
not every
you go.
once in a while,
There you go.
50 or more percent of the time.
What about like if we follow like a boxer, boxing is, I'm a big boxing fan, okay? If we look at someone like Tyson Fury who goes into a match with, what was the guy's name? The bronze bomber. Remember he got put on his ass in the last round. Um
I couldn't tell you much about boxing, to be honest, but I'm here to listen.
well basically it was the last round, and a lot of people will know what I'm talking about. Um Deontay Wilder, there we go. Deontay Wilder put Tyson Fury on his ass literally in the last minute of the 12th round. Like, I mean, boom, KO. Forget about it. It should be over. And on number 9, on the ninth fucking count of the referee, the guy sits up like the Undertaker and just answers the bell and gets up and continues on.
That's heart. That's heart.
And there we go. That's exactly what we're talking about. That's what we want to see from our players. We're not asking them all to be knocked out. You know what I mean? Like by pucks or, by answering the bell every time. Although, shout out to Cassian for answering the bell. Yeah. Um, hey, Cassian, it's been a while with you and Lucic. Maybe in the next Battle of Alberta that needs to be revisited. I'm just saying.
I'd
Uh,
love that.
oh, dude. Have you ever watched some of those old fights? Yeah.
You mean the old hockey fights?
No, Cassian and Lucic, they're old fights.
Oh, from years and years ago. I'm sure I have, not
Yeah,
recently,
yeah.
but
It was very, very rare Cassian came out in any way, shape, or form looking good. Um,
yeah.
it's
Well,
Lucic.
Cassian is a fighter, but he's
Yeah, but I
yeah,
mean, like I want to shout out to those jabronis that Brad was on. Those Oilers jabronis. Nothing but love for you
oh
guys as well. I love anybody that does a podcast. So we're teasing here, but just to put some actual context on it as well. Uh, like they were talking about, they were calling Kachuk a pussy and a bitch, and he won't answer a bell with anyone. Kachuk has answered every bell that he's been put to.
yeah,
There,
yeah.
the
And
big, the
I
biggest.
get where they're coming from because he seems like he's uninterested in fighting until whatever um you know the guy starts putting his mitts back on. But like, why would you start putting your mitts back on? How many times have I seen a player take a circle before a fight starts?
Absolutely, you know what I mean.
Hundreds,
Yeah,
hundreds of.
I've also seen guys take their mitts off real quick to make it look like they want to fight, and then go, "Oh no, I'll put them back on real quick." You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I think, and don't forget, Cassian is the one that was the bitch that got a hit from Kachuk the first time, and
yeah.
then started hitting Kachuk from the back. He punched Kachuk in the back of the head and was pulling Kachuk
He
while he
jumped
couldn't
him from behind,
from behind.
and let me ask you this.
Yeah,
And I know this isn't going to mean much to a lot of people who aren't Flames fans, but
sure, sure.
say some guy who's known to have cement fists comes up behind you and unknowingly starts pummeling you in the back of the head. What's the
And
first thing you're going to do?
you're gonna go like that. What the fuck? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, you're going to cover your head because you're getting pummeled from behind.
Of course.
So I don't see why people are like, "Oh, he didn't drop the gloves." Well, no, because he was jumped from behind and didn't have a chance.
And also, can I just also say that you're also on fucking skates on ice, so it's not like you can turn up and jump around at a 180-degree angle at pace and say, right, let's fight. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And then
yeah,
then he also had him by the hair, and the hockey and the back of the jersey and was dragging him around and trying to punch him. But then what happened? He did answer the bell. And what happened at the bell? Nothing. Cassian had to fall on him because he couldn't get
Yeah,
a shot in on Kachuk.
yeah.
So, you know what? Fuck you, Cassian. Although, you know what? I would love to see Cassian at the end of his contract just join the Flames and have a line of Kachuk, Lucic, and Cassian just for one game, just for one period only.
Just for one period only. Just like that. I don't know if you remember the whole thing that happened with Draisaitl and Kachuk, and then they
Oh,
played, in the All-Star game that year
yeah.
later, and they played together. And Kachuk just had this nasty assist on the Draisaitl goal, and they didn't even celebrate together. Kachuk like smiled at him, and Draisaitl just like skated by like nothing happened, and he didn't give a fuck. But it was kind of funny
That's a
because it's like a
German thing, though.
beautiful
That's a
play.
German thing. The Germans are always like that.
Yeah.
I know that well
Um.
over here.
Yeah.
I do.
We have
But,
gotten so massively off topic. I assume this is going to happen lots. But talking about prospects, I wanted to get my piece in on Dustin Wolf.
okay.
So crazy potential, crazy potential. Kid is a small handful of shutouts away from a WHL record of shutouts in a career. He's last I checked, he's 3 games this year, 3 shutouts this year. And given I don't watch a whole bunch of, I don't watch any Everett Silvertips games, to be honest. But I hear they're the most defensively sound team in the league, in that league.
Sure.
So that's great. But goalie also has to be pretty good to put up numbers to, yeah. But you
Dude,
got to
did you see
temper
his save
expectations with
percentage?
goalies. This is like, I am hopeful, but I'm not going to hold my breath because goalies can be just lights out in the AHL, a level up of where he's playing,
Yeah, that's true.
and then just absolutely shit the bed.
That's the
Hell,
big test. That's the big
Matt
test.
Murray
Yeah.
played 20 playoff games, won 2 cups. I'm probably off with 20, but he played however many playoff games, won 2 Stanley Cups, and has been absolute dog shit ever since.
Yeah, like it could turn out
Right?
that Wolf goes up and Zagadulin is your guy. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, that can easily
Yeah,
happen. That can easily
yeah.
happen. But what about I mean, I think we should talk about. Obviously, we need to talk about Rosicka in the fucking.
Uh, when you're struggling, when your big team is struggling, and you have a line in the AHL that was absolutely dominating in Zari and Rosiska getting split up because the WHL started and Zari's too young to actually play in the AHL, so he had to get sent back to the WHL. Why aren't you bringing, like, when you're struggling, bring up the guys that have potential, have drive, and can push the team, and is absolutely lighting it up. You know what I mean?
Dude,
Has confidence. Why
Rosicka.
aren't you?
Imagine Rosicka coming into that team and looking at someone like Monty and going, "Hey, I'm better than you at the moment. Hey, I'm better than you at the moment," or whoever else. You know what I mean? Like a lot of these young guys come up full of spunk. You know what I mean? And they're ready to fucking put it up to the big
I
guys.
think part of it is complacency. Like, Monahan knows that Derek Ryan and Michael Backlund, like, God bless Backlund, he's a fucking awesome 2-way center, but he's not a number 1 center. He's less of a number 1 center than Monahan is, as
Yeah,
far as putting up numbers is
he's a
concerned.
third. He's a third. Yeah.
And he's the best fucking second line center, well, one of the best second line centers in the league, I think. But Monahan knows that there's not a whole bunch of chances for anybody that's on the roster right now to push him off. And maybe if there was, maybe if we had gotten Pierre-Luc Dubois,
Mm,
let's say,
Mm.
right? Maybe if there's another guy who has the history and background and possibility of being able to push for his spot, maybe, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, no,
Maybe they
that
need
makes
to start
all
it.
the sense. Maybe Money needs that competition and like, to challenge himself as well. Because look, Monaghan hasn't become a shit player overnight. You know what I
No,
mean? He hasn't forgotten how to score overnight. Johnny
no,
Gaudreau, I'll be honest with you, I am over Johnny Gaudreau. I'm
me
over
too.
Johnny Hockey. I know a lot of people aren't
Possesses a
gonna like.
great skill set. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah,
I'm just over
great skill
the
set.
lack
Great skill
of
set.
ability.
I'm just,
You know,
I think he's done with Calgary as well. I don't believe that he wants to sign for Calgary. I'm not saying that he wants to sign for this club or that club. I'm not saying that. We've talked about this as well. We're
we
not.
aren't in his head, but
No, but I don't believe that he wants to sign for this club again. You know what I mean? I really don't. I think he's going to put an astronomical value on himself. Um, you're talking about a player as well that's been, playing for this team for so long and still doesn't even have a home in Calgary. That always worries me. Just, just in general, I don't know. Maybe it's different over there with you guys, but for me, when a player like signs from my Chelsea football club, for example, in the UK, they buy a property and they live there. You know what I mean? That's what we're playing here, and that's it. I've got a
yeah.
5 year contract. I'm gonna get a home, and that's it. You know?
Well, a lot of guys do like,
Yeah.
like Michael Backlund has a place to live in Sweden, but he also has a house and a family in Calgary,
Yeah.
and a lot of other guys do. But Gaudreau's house, as far as I know, is in New Jersey.
Listen, dude.
Pretty sure that's like,
Every time he has time off, he's back in New Jersey. It's like
yeah,
he can't wait to get out of the city, and it's like,
yeah.
sometimes there's no smoke without fire, without putting any, you know.
Given we know one thing for sure from seeing, interviews with him and his dad, and even the draft he was drafted in and stuff like that. But he's a big family first type of a person,
Which is cool. Which is also
which is
cool.
cool. Which is why, different subject. I'll just put it out there real quick and then we'll go back. But which is why I'm never, ever, 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 ever going to be upset with Travis Hamonic. Um,
Yeah, me too. Me too. I
yeah,
gotta, I gotta agree with
putting
that.
your family first is the most important thing.
Well, it should be. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It always should be. And
yeah.
and
Um,
we're ripping on players here just purely for what they do on the ice, not in terms of their personality off the ice. You know
oh,
what I mean?
absolutely. If you want to go home, if you want to go play in New Jersey or Philadelphia, because you're going to be a 3-hour drive from your dad or whatever, all the fucking power to you.
And
You
dude,
know
I'll
what?
cheer you on. I'll cheer you on. I might even buy a jersey and wrap it up in a fucking frame for you, just to, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I'm
Given
just.
most players, well, not most, but a lot of Canadian players in the league want to go play for fucking Toronto because they're all from there, and there's only so many spots on some teams.
Yeah, dude. I mean, look, Toronto Maple Leafs, like that's the first ever jersey I ever had. I remember it was given to me, and it was like, wow, to get a
Where's
hockey.
the power button on this fucker? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, but to get a Toronto Maple Leafs jersey in Ireland was like even ridiculous. You know what I mean? So it was actually gifted to me, and I was like, whoa, shit, I have a hockey jersey. Finally, I was like, yeah, but it's not red and yellow. What the fuck is going on here? Like, I'm a Hulk
Yeah,
Hogan guy. I want red and yellow. um, no, but the point I'm making is that like there is certain dynasties. It's like in basketball, you're always going to have the Celtics and the Lakers and the Bulls, right? You know what I mean?
yeah.
The Bulls purely because of Michael Jordan. You
Michael
know?
Jordan
Yeah,
and the Lakers because of
and
Shaq and Kobe, and
but they've also got 17, well, 18 now for the Lakers. Fucking Larry
yeah,
O'Brien trophies. So
yeah,
it's there. It's the same with the Maple Leafs. It's the same with the Canadians. Um, it's their history is there, and they're going to be the teams that people flock to. Calgary is a
Yeah.
good city. Edmonton is a nice city. Fucking Ottawa is the capital. Is a beautiful city. Some amazing fucking um,
uh,
buildings and architecture there as well. And I just like seeing Canadian hockey come back up as well because, like we said as well, I'm a Flames fan first and foremost, but I'm a fan of hockey. You know what I mean? And I want to see hockey be where it needs to be.
I
From
was so happy when the Jets came back. Like
yes,
I
yeah,
was saying earlier, how I don't know if I said it on the air or if I was just talking about it when it was just you and me, but when I was growing up, I was obviously I liked the Flames and I actually liked the Lightning growing up.
yep, yeah,
But
yeah. No, Lightning, yep, 100%.
but it was that was mostly because I was a child and I thought Lightning was a cool thing. Um,
Dude, it was the
but
coolest jerseys ever. It still is the coolest jerseys. In fact, last year when
exactly,
Calgary lost to Dallas, I was like, Dallas are playing Tampa? Boom. It's easy for me to pick. Easy for
yeah,
me to
yeah.
pick.
No, I picked Tampa too. Like
Yeah.
I, yeah, but
And I love Texas, by the way. It's no disrespect to Dallas. It was just like, fuck you,
no,
Joe Pavelski. You should be playing for us.
but it's got nothing. Yeah, where was I here? Oh yeah, as far as Winnipeg coming back, I've always and like oh, I get ragged on by Flames fans all the time because Tampa, they beat us and it was in or whatever. But um, Tampa's been my second favorite team for most of my life. But when Winnipeg came back, bam,
That was your team.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the second favorite team now, right?
Yeah,
Um,
look,
and
everybody
and
has the second team, and they usually pick it from like as far away as possible, right? You know what I mean? Just to make sure
yeah,
that it's like nobody's going to turn around and say, "Hey, it's the Flames and the Oilers," right? It's like,
I
what?
I know a few people. You know what? Coming from like a town that's basically right between like halfway between Calgary and Edmonton, I know a few people.
Oh,
I
really?
really do. Yeah,
Okay, well, that is interesting.
not a whole bunch, but I know probably like three or four who are like sometimes Flames fans, sometimes Oilers fans,
Yeah,
and
like
it bothers me.
I
But
find it
hey, whatever,
difficult. I
whatever
find
floats
it
your boat.
difficult. I find it difficult to
Yeah.
support. I
We
mean,
are
look,
creeping.
I'll always have a beautiful. I'll always have like an amazing respect for the Maple Leafs in terms of what they've achieved. You know what I mean? And I think any real hockey fan will. You know what I mean? Because it's a
Yep.
dynasty. You know what I mean? It's an absolute dynasty. I mean, for me, Ty Domi, I loved watching that guy at work fucking beat the shit out of people. It was
Well, that's why we like players like Kachuk is because they remind us of
exactly.
maybe not so much this year, but they remind us of those, obviously brought up by those guys. And like
Yes,
Max Domi is very much the same, like not to the same caliber that his dad was, but
but
very
close,
similar style
close.
player, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
same with Matthew Kachuk and Brady Kachuk, very similar players to their old man.
Yeah, yeah. We got the better looking brother though, I gotta say. If that's a
He's
possibility.
got those locks. He's got those locks. I'm not going to comment on the face or anything, but he's got the curlies.
Brady just looks like I don't know, he just looks like
Older.
yeah, he looks older. But a hell of a hockey player too. But
Yeah.
no, for me, yeah, like it's funny. The older I get, I'm like, right, I don't like people picking teams on the West. I mean, that new Seattle Kraken jersey looks absolutely beautiful. I gotta say. So for all the Seattle fans that are going to be out there, you've got a hell of a jersey going on there.
Yeah.
I think we're all in agreement on that. To be fair, I think the whole league would be in agreement on that. Until we start playing, and then we're gonna be like, fuck Seattle, you know. But
So I think Seattle, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say how things are going to turn out, but I feel like Seattle being so close to Vancouver is going to be that's going to be a pretty big rivalry. But
I hope they beat the shit out of Vancouver. Yeah, like I'll be cheering on the Kraken for that one, especially with those distasteful Vancouver fans today on Matthew Kachuk's kind of, you know, I suppose is tribute to the legend, one of the St. Louis Blues legends. that died today, that passed away, and they basically said, "Oh, well, we won't be thinking the same of you," or blah blah blah. I wouldn't piss on
That
you.
must have that must have been while I was at work, because I haven't seen that.
Yeah, you
But
can check it out. It's on Twitter. You know Twitter, the
yeah,
usual hot
I'll
handle.
I'll check it out later. We are creeping pretty close to game time here.
That's exactly what we are doing, and that's why I was going to wrap it up now in a moment. I think for a first Calgary Flames podcast, I think this has been pretty awesome, and I think, in particular, our podcast that you're never going to forget the name of, the Flaming Puck. I think it's exactly the right name for what we've been talking about. Because, in fairness, we did have some stories there, and to be honest with you, I think we've been pretty balanced on it as well. I don't think we were one sided, and I think we've been pretty balanced on absolutely everything we've spoken about today, and I hope that comes
Yep.
across to the fans. If it doesn't, well then fuck you. We can't really please everybody. We can't please all the people all the time. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah,
and hell, if you got anything that you want to say in rebuttal to anything that we had to say, well then I'll tell you what, answer the bell and come on the show, and we'll be more than happy to have you. Um,
yeah.
but I think for the first episode of the
Or
Flaming Puck, oh, Dylan's got another one.
or join up Flames Hub and on Facebook. We're both on there,
Yeah,
and call us out if you need to.
absolutely. Please do. We're both, I was lucky to get my honorable induction into that there as well. So I'll be happy to add you in if you want. If you want to come in and give us some shit, absolutely, we'll be happy to answer it. And there's always going to be banter there. So shout out to our Flames Hub brothers and sisters as well. The only place on social media, and in particular Facebook, for just for a proper brotherhood and sisterhood of Flames talk. I think that's probably the best way of saying it, isn't it? It
Should
is.
probably mention it's about as PG as this show is.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No cuss words, no profanity, no bad language, no
Right.
judgment, and absolutely no sarcasm. Yeah, I say all the while being as sarcastic as I can possibly be. So I think for this week's episode of the Flaming Puck, it's about time that we sign off by saying, for Dylan Simpson, for Ian the Dynamo Kelly, this week the Flames Hub is over and out.